1. One, two. Check. One, two. One, two.
Do you want to get some water? You put your coat. Oh.
Q&A on the floor right now.
Okay.
So just whenever it's time.
You gave me two. Okay. I was cool until now I get nervous.
And then once we get going, you're all right. Okay. There we go. Getting some feedback. This is on. Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. They get too close together.
So how do we do that? Oh, right. Let me pick a friendly face.
And the camera angle. Just want to see Brian. We have that camera coming past you. Actually, yeah. Perfect. There we go.
Use it. This one I think is yours. Might need to borrow somebody's. Test. Oh, okay. Oh, this is on. All right.
Let's see if are they ready on the live stream?
Yes, is there any way we can bring the music down a little bit in the house?
Ready? Oh, okay. All right, cool. All right. Well, hey, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Third Space Reading Room. We are so glad you're here. Third Space Reading Room, aka the Inner City Club of Cleveland. We are a Black radical imagination bookstore. Based here in the historic Glenville neighborhood. This is a space for dreaming and scheming. And I have to say, on behalf of my team at Third Space, we are just so honored to welcome you all here into our living room to really expand our imaginations about the possibilities. So I'm Mordecai Cargill. I'm the co-founder and chief creative officer for Third Space Action Lab and Third Space Reading Room. I'll start by saying that Mark Joseph is a longtime friend of Third Space and a mentor and a thought partner and inspiration to both of the Third Space founders, myself and Evelyn Burnett. His extensive research and practitioner-oriented scholarship has informed my own sense of the complexity inherent in applied social justice work, particularly how to transform neighborhoods into places that are worthy of the people who live there. His scholarship has also inspired me to think differently about the possibilities and to think with enough respect for the magnitude of the problems that we're trying to take on. As a side note, some of you may know that my partner and I kind of started Third Space with a bang. There was a controversial article that preceded our official founding, and one of the first people who reached out to us to offer some guidance in that moment, not uncritical guidance, but loving, thoughtful guidance, to really inquire about what we were wrestling with and to not diminish the enthusiasm and the fervor with which we profess these things out into the world before we had an idea of how to do them. But some, let's say, gentle nudging, like, okay, so what does this really mean? And 7 years later, we're still here.
Well, all right.
We're still here. We wouldn't be here without our dear friend, Mark Joseph. But I should also say that one of the greatest honors in my career to date has been for Third Space to be featured in this season of the fantastic Bending the Arc podcast. If you haven't already checked it out, I mean, after you leave here, of course, go check that out for sure. But that honor is only rivaled by the opportunity to host tonight's discussion. A celebration of his first, hopefully not last, collection of didactic fiction entitled Changing the Narrative, Short Stories to Advance Anti-Racism. So let me tell you a little bit about the book, and we're going to bring it to life in this panel. So Changing the Narrative, Short Stories to Advance Anti-Racism is a compilation of 8 short stories that reveal key insights and guidance about how to promote anti-racism in practical ways. Through compelling characters and storylines with unexpected twists, and I mean unexpected twists, Mark provides a highly readable guidebook to practicing everyday anti-racism. A fated plane flight, a mysterious pandemic that bestows superpowers, a revealing mother-daughter reunion, visionary teens who upend the status quo at their high school, an unexpectedly restorative journey to West Africa for 2 military veterans. Joseph takes the reader on a deeply moving experience of revelation and inspiration. Each story is followed by an author's reflection and discussion questions that help readers delve even deeper into the volume's themes. And finally, before I pass the mic, I would be remiss if I didn't just read Mark's bio. I know you told us not to, but a little bit of a maverick on the mic here. So nonetheless, Mark Joseph is the Leona Bevis / Marguerite Haynam Professor in Community Development and the founding director of NP3, Nurturing People, Power, and Place, which conducts research and consulting projects in cities across the US and Canada. His research focus is mixed income development as a strategy for promoting urban equity and inclusion. He's a co-author of the award-winning book, Integrating the Inner City, The Promise and Perils of Mixed Income Public Housing Transformation, and co-editor of What Works to Promote Inclusive, Equitable Mixed-Income Communities. Mark's extensive education includes a Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Chicago, Master's of Arts, also from the University of Chicago, and a Bachelor's from Harvard University. But what I'll end on is 2 things that I feel give us a snapshot into my friend's character and his philosophy for scholarship. In response to the question why I teach, he says, I teach because there is no better way to continue to grow and learn in my own knowledge and thinking, while also inspiring and equipping the next generation of change makers. And why I chose this profession, he says, I chose this profession because it is motivated by a social change mission and guided by principles of belonging, interdependence, and collective thriving. Please join me in welcoming Professor Mark Joseph and a fabulous panel for this incredible discussion. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, Mordecai Cargill. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to see you. We have a fantastic group gathered here on the east side of Cleveland in the historic Glenville neighborhood on a frigid winter's night. So the fact that all of you all have made it out here, I am deeply, deeply gratified. You could be cozy up warm. Speaking of cozy up warm, our live stream audience is cozy warm right now. So welcome. And I happen to know that we've got folks literally coast to coast who are watching us right now. So welcome. And we have some folks from overseas watching us, international. So this is truly a local, national, and global event, and we are thrilled to be able to launch the book here. I can truly think of no better place on the planet to launch a book of short stories on anti-racism than right here in the Third Space reading room, as I said, in the historic Glenville neighborhood. Yeah, give it up. I think this is the kind of thing that they made this place for. There's been just an array, a treasure of activities and events over their first 5 years. Can't wait to see what the next 5 years is going to look like. And Mordecai mentioned Bending the Arc series. So we have dedicated a 7-podcast episode series to telling you the story of Third Space. We have gotten 5 already out there. One of them is actually about the space and about liberated spaces, and we recorded right here. Media Vision came out and was set up. So please check out. You can start with episode 32. That's Evelyn and Mordecai, and go from there. So definitely check that out. Huge thanks to Evelyn and Mordecai for hosting. Special thanks to Sean Clark. Sean, if you could give a wave. Sean has executive produced this. Yep, give us a hand. So from start to finish, thank you, Sean, for everything you've done, including the marketing, great marketing. And I just want to say Third Space is truly modeling what I see as the next generation of anti-racist community development. They're writing about it, studying it, but also showing it and doing it. So please, if you don't know about them, Google Third Space Action Lab. I like to think of them as radical imagination in action. If you want to see what radical imagination looks like, check out the work of Third Space. This series, or tonight's event, is also sponsored with huge gratitude by the McBride Lecture Fund at Case Western Reserve University. When I reached out and said, I'm doing this thing, would the university be willing to sponsor it? And very quickly, I heard back that there was a lecture fund that would sponsor it. And special thanks to Julian Rogers, who is the Associate VP for Local Government Relations and Community Affairs at the university. So thanks to Julian. Can we give him a hand? Thank you, guys. Also want to thank the Media Vision team. So there's all this audiovisual stuff you see happening here. These are the Case Western folks who have brought this all over from the university. When Sean and I were talking about how we wanted to do this, and I said, I've got an idea to have discussants who've been in the anti-racism class. And he's like, well, how many? And I was like, there would be 4 of us. And he's like, whoa, that's kind of getting to a spot where we may not have all the audiovisual. So I said, well, would it be okay if we reached out to Media Vision at Case? He said that would be fantastic. Reached out to them, so here they are, making sure we can do this and have the live stream and have a recording. So huge thanks to Media Vision for being here. I want to acknowledge, and I hope she's able to watch tonight, but she's a busy mom of 2, Joni Hirsch-Caden, who is my business assistant and graphic designer for my everyday anti-racism work. She helped me produce the book and get it published. She helped me finalize this version of the anti-racism framework that you see behind us. And she designed the cover of the book, which I just love more and more every time I see it. So huge thanks to Joni Hirsch-Caden. Shout out to my team at NP3. Love hearing it come off your tongue there. Mordecai, nurturing people and power in place at the university, for all their support, marketing this event, and of course, while I was doing the writing of the book. In particular, our Associate Director, Debbie Wilbur, who's right here tonight with her daughter, Zusha. Hey, Zusha. Thank you for being here to support me. And a shout out to my family. My wife, Meilani, is here in the back row. Thanks, Meilani. And our 3 next generation change agents, Layla, Malik, and Ayande, who I believe are watching tonight, so a special hello to them. And then I have a surprise family attendee tonight. My brother, Anthony, walked in a moment ago. He drove up from Columbus to be here. Apparently he's driving back to Columbus tonight, so we won't even get to chat too much. But please give it up for AJ coming up to support his brother. That is awesome. And a huge thank you to my wonderful panel of discussants. I'm going to get to introduce you fully in a moment, but thank you each. Each of them enthusiastically, immediately upon asking, said they wanted to be a part of it. So I cannot wait to hear from them. All right, so the flow for tonight's event. I'm going to lead off with a little bit of background on the book. You heard a little bit from Mordecai, but I'm going to say a little bit more about the book. I'm then going to bring our discussants in and pose some questions to them. Then we'll flip the script, and they will get to ask me questions. They know the questions that are coming. I have no idea the questions that are coming. So that's where it'll get very interesting. And then we'll open up for some audience Q&A, and then we'll have some time to mix and mingle. We have plenty of food for those here to reward you from coming out on this frigid night. This is very comfortable. So if you get a little peckish, get on up. We have some wine back there, some apple cider. So help yourselves. Your neighbors will let you out. They'll save your seat and come on back. So feel free. Don't worry. This is very, very informal and comfortable. All right. So to the book. And as Mordecai already shared, really I wrote the book to bring to life in a fictional form this everyday anti-racism framework, which I hope those on the live stream are able to see. As you can see, there are 8 elements to the framework, and there is one story for each of the elements. And so it really was an opportunity to go deep on an element, challenge myself, number one, what do I mean by curiosity in terms of anti-racism? What do we mean by truth? What do we mean by healing? And then put it into a form that could help readers grapple with that a little more deeply. For me, when we talk about everyday anti-racism, often when we think of anti-racism, we think about policy change and disruption of inequitable social structures, and that is anti-racism, but it's not the only way. And in fact, perhaps more importantly, anti-racism happens through everyday intentional actions by each of us. Literally, you could do hundreds of anti-racist actions a day, and each of those actions have ripple effects in the people who are around you and experience them. So to me, I really wanted to center this everyday anti-racism piece in addition to the bigger, weighty systems change anti-racism. Both very important, but I think sometimes we feel helpless. What can I do? And in fact, there are so much you can do. And I hope that's what the characters and the plots in these short stories make come alive. There really is so much we can each be doing. I call this genre of writing, and you heard it from Mordecai, didactic fiction, because it truly is teaching and explicitly teaching. So I think future writing that I do might not be as kind of make sure the reader gets it, and might be a little bit more of that abstract kind of, what do you see in this? This is not meant to confuse anyone. This is meant to come right at you. You know what I'm saying. And in fact, even to make sure, I include an author's reflection after each story. And I tell you exactly what I was thinking, and exactly why I wrote the story, and exactly what I hope you can wrestle with as you go the story. So in a way, you can think of it as a cross between fiction and a textbook. So see what you think, and we'll see what our discussants think. So I'm hugely excited so far about the discussions we've had, particularly in class. We've had a book club series at the university. So I've already gotten to begin engaging with folks around this. And these discussants were brave enough to take my Everyday Anti-Racism class, which I co-teach with Dr. Jenny King and Braveheart Galani. And so they had read the stories. So they had no excuse. When I reached out to them, they couldn't say, oh, we don't have time to read them. They'd read them, and they just needed to look back at them. So we appreciate that. So let me tell you a little bit more about these amazing discussants. Gwendolyn Garth, right here to my right. When we email each other, she calls me sister friend, and I call her brother friend. I call her sister warrior. So this is really my sister right here. She's a social practice artist who uses multiple mediums as she weaves together storytelling, community building, and healing. Ms. Gwen is the founder and visionary leader of a grassroots art service nonprofit organization called Kings and Queens of Art. She also has a for-profit business called Art by Garth. Ms. Gwen has 27 years of uninterrupted sobriety and is an alumna of the carceral system. I like how you put that. She calls herself an artivist, an artist activist, an artivist. So that is Ms. Gwen. I'm so glad you're here. Let's give it up for Ms. Gwen. On her right is Miss Cynthia Smith. Cynthia currently works as a career coach for Towards Employment. I'm sure many of the Clevelanders have heard of the great work of Towards Employment, where she assists 18 to 24-year-olds, young adults, pursuing workforce and personal development. She serves also as lead associate minister at Olivet Institutional Baptist Church, where her responsibilities include women's ministry and grief support. She has a BA in political science from Case Western, a JD from Cleveland State, and is pursuing a Master of Divinity. She spent more than 2 decades engaged in a community-based legal practice where her philosophy was to take her service to the urban neighborhoods where people live. Please give it up for Cynthia Smith. All right, for our next discussant, I have to get a little Yoruba on you to pronounce his name. Oluwatimileyan. Timmy for short. When he first came to class, and I was like, "What's your name?" He said, "Timmy." I was like, "Okay, but what is your name?" Then he said, Oluwatimileyan. I said, "I'll call you Timmy." Last name, Oborisade. And it's beautiful. Oluwatimileyan means God is with me in Yoruba. Timmy is a graduate student at Case Western Reserve University. He's currently pursuing a PhD in sociology. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Sociology from Bowen University, graduating with distinction, and later obtained his Master's of Arts in Sociology from Case. His research interests include medical sociology, life course, and aging in America, with a particular focus on how structural and institutional factors influence individual and community outcomes. Give it up for Oluwatimileyan. All right, let's get into discussion. So for our discussants, first question is, how would you each describe this short story volume? What is this thing? And can you give us a sense of how reading the volume has impacted you? And Miss Cynthia, we're gonna start off with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I get into answering the question, I'm going to do the political thing. And I'm going to talk about how I came to meet Dr. Mark. I was working through Towards Employment at Wood Hill, and he was there with the project that was going to relocate all of the residents of the Wood Hill Estates into new housing. And the next thing I knew, I was going back to Towards Employment, and I saw a class being offered, Classroom Without Walls, through Fresh Start, and I thought, that sounds interesting. And guess who I met when I got to class? There was Dr. Mark. So that let me know that he was a person who was not just talking the talk, he was walking the walk. Now, may I talk about the short stories? He calls it didactic fiction. I call it people I know who've done things that I've seen. It's fiction if you don't know people who have walked through the racism of our society. But I can tell you, each and every story represents someone that I've encountered over the course of my long career. I'm probably the oldest person who's been in the class, and I had a birthday yesterday. It was wonderful, but we're not going to talk about it. But I think the stories are really a reflection of our society. And some of it is so specific, I could give you names for the people that the stories represent. I told Dr. Mark when we were in class, we were reading through on, well, I printed out all of mine because I'm old school. but we were reading online. And when I got my book, I thought, this is actually quite amazing. And I've indicated that I would like to do this as a book study at our church because I think that everybody should get involved in not just trying to understand, but understanding the everydayness of what racism really looks like. So I'm excited. I'm toning it down because I can get really enthusiastic. But I think it is an awesome exploration into the multiple facets of where racism starts, how it is internalized within the African American community. And I'll get to that shortly.
Uh-oh, I think I know what story we might be
You
talking
know where I'm
about.
going.
All right. Ms. Gwen, how about you?
Oh, well, I want to start off by saying, telling Mordecai or remind, I forget. I got an outdoor voice, so I'm not used to this, because I like to talk with my hands, I guess. I want to remind Mordecai that him and Evelyn are carrying on a tradition. I grew up in Glenville doing the shootout. And so this was a hangout and a place where we came, listened to jazz and books. He's just carrying on this is a heavy tradition, you know. Some of the kids are kind of missing the real revolutionary who walked and talked, you know, was in the streets, you know, really fighting back at that time. Dr. Mark is a revolutionary, but he don't have the pistols and stuff and things like that, you know. But I agree with my colleague here that these are everyday stories that really reflect what's happening in our neighborhoods and what's happening. These are real people. These are real stories, and I think I got you beat on the oldest in the class. Okay, in the classes, but it helped change. I consider myself a disruptor. Anti-racism gave me another name for that, you know, and I like that part. I always like things that make me go,
In the center, and it talks about racial equity on the one side, racial justice on the other, and then it's got two hands, and they're praying hands. And when I turned it in, and I did very well in the class, mind you, but when I turned it in, Dr. Mark asked me, so why did you use white hands? And I said, because in one of the readings that we had, the author made it clear that it is going to take our white counterparts, brothers and sisters, to really help to undo the damage that has been done. I could have made black hands that would have looked like me, but it's an opportunity to expand the work into other communities. So I went through and brought that with me.
I love that you have that. Thank you, Ms. Cynthia.
Well, listen, I have a folder because this was important and impactful. Thank you.
It's beautiful to see. All right, well, let's see what's on the minds of our audience. We got any questions out there? Earl Ingram, my guy, thank you for being here. What's up, man?
Thank you for having me. A question, what was the intention behind your title? So when I got the invite and I saw the title, I thought it was very telling that it's not this title changing the narrative, but it added in short story activity and then everyday anti-racism. And I think the word anti is so powerful and it's connected to something. The way normally acts, activist, but it took me back to an interview I watched with Ryan Coogler where he was describing his backdrop in Wakanda Forever. And it was the first time that I had heard someone reference in filmmaking that there was not a villain in the story, there was an anti-hero.
Yes.
And it intrigued me from the onset, and then when I had an opportunity to watch the film, I thought it was presented so well from the standpoint that it really wasn't a villain in the story. These were two entities who were facing similar struggles and had been pinned by society to kind of go against each other. So from that standpoint, I'm just intrigued to see why you added that caveat in, and what is your backdrop on the intentionality in the title and adding in anti-racism.
Okay, wow. Well, first of all, thank you, Earl, for being here. Earl is a partner in the Woodhill Redevelopment Initiative. He's actually the co-chair of our steering committee, works with youth at the Boys and Girls Club. And back to what I was saying earlier about being in different partnerships. We're in a partnership now with Earl and his youth, and really hoping to be working together on some design projects in the community. So this is the kind of place where we want to be doing our work. So the anti actually goes into a conversation that was started probably in this country 3-4 years ago, the publication of Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And he made a core argument that really, was massive for me, and I think so many other people, which is to say what we often spend our time saying is there's racism, and we just say, I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist. I'm just doing me. There's racism, there's bad stuff, bad people. I'm not a racist, I'm good. And what he said is there's actually just a choice. That either you're doing racist things or you're doing anti-racist things. If you're not actively anti, to the core part of your question, if you're not actively anti, the system and the flow and the dynamic is so powerful, you're going along with it. I think of it as a river that's flowing. And there's this river of racism that's been flowing for centuries. And you're in a boat on the river, and you say, I'm not racist, but your boat is floating down the river. Unless you're actively turned around and rowing against it. So that's the anti part. You have to row against the stream. You have to be an anti-racist. And then it's like, well, what is this anti-racist thing? What is this language? What is that? So that's what then the framework and the discussion starts to be. What are the actions that you take to be rowing against the river? And it turns out it's got to be actions in your mind and how you think, and in your actions, and how you play that out every day. I also want to touch on, I don't know if you're wondering about it, but I'll take this chance to jump on the first part of the title in terms of changing the narrative. Those who have read the first part of the book will see I explain it, but it has multiple meanings. So first of all, changing the narrative is really the overall theme of what we're doing here. We have to change the narrative about how we got here. There's a story, there's a narrative. What is the truth about how we got where we are? And what's the truth about what's possible? And I think this is particularly important right now, because there is a feeling of despair, given everything that we've seen and the possibility and the way in which things are now being turned back and the clock is being turned back. So many of us are feeling like, maybe this is how it goes. Maybe this is how it goes. And we have to change that narrative. And so pretty much every story tackles the theme of how do we have a different way of thinking about what's possible. So that's one. Within every story, there is a bit of a twist and a narrative shift. And so there's also changing the narrative even within the story. Third, I have done a lot of writing over my time, but it's all been scholarly writing or policy writing or practice type writing. So I'm changing my narrative into fiction writing as a different way of approaching sharing that out. So that also was the changing the narrative as well. But again, thanks for being here, Earl. Appreciate you. Yes, please.
Yes, I was here last night.
Just for the recording.
Thank you, okay. I was here last night for Mari Sousa's book, Design Against Racism, Creating Work That Transforms Our Communities. And as you spoke about the work you do with partners in terms of creating mixed income communities, you mentioned these partners, but not one time did you mention the people who live in these communities. I get so many calls almost daily from people over there in this last complex that has been torn down, people who feel very disconnected. They don't have a sense of belonging. And until we involve the people who are being affected by these projects, I mean, the architects are okay, the developers are okay, but you need to be talking to the people who are going to be affected by the project. And Gwen, I thought you were headed this way when you talked about that uprooted tree, because it isn't just a tree. For me, that was symbolic. You're uprooting the people who live there. And some of these people will not be able to go back into those neighborhoods. And those are the people who are calling and are very disgruntled with the fact that they are being pushed out of those neighborhoods. Most low-income communities, especially those with high poverty indicators like the ones I've been working with, they're very insular communities. They're communities that have worked, and their families live there. Their grandparents live there. And even though some of them may have moved up, become teachers or whatever, they come back and live in those same neighborhoods. So when you uproot, like the tree, you uproot the people who live there and you break those families up. You know, until we began to talk to the people, get their input about how to make these mixed income neighborhoods successful for everybody, I have questions about the process.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, let's hold on for the microphone so that you get recorded. I think something good's coming.
So I'll just say that we get calls, text messages from community people when we are in another continent. And Mark takes those calls and text messages. And I'm talking about many people. So Mark is, and I don't know if you're going to explain how much you're involved with people in the community. I mean, there are stories upon stories, and I don't know all of them. But I just want to say that Dr. Mark is invested almost as much as marriage in people in the community. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, if I could, I see about the changing of your name because I've always wanted to talk to you about that. I was going to get on you about that mixed income thing. Okay. Because I saw that, how was that going to work? Mixed income, how was I going to feel being, you know, I'm making one income, somebody else making the other thing. I said, how is that going to work different from the projects? How is that going to work and how is that going to solve any kind of problems? And I also want to say, them buildings still look like projects over there, you know, like that. But I love the way your explanation about changing the name. Because God changed everybody's name in the Bible and they gave them power. You know, because I think that when the words do give us power. And once you change those words, they'll give you direction. So I really like that part because I'm glad you explained that to me because as much as I love you, I was going to say, why are you doing mixed income? You know?
So since you mentioned God, and that's my department. Let me just speak to the belonging in the framework. I think that is the place. And the story about belonging really starts from a place of insular, lacking relationships. But it's intentional to move forward into community. And I think that the story that is written is a perfect example of how belonging really starts with the idea of being able to recognize that you are insular and want to invite others in. So it really, and I did work at Woodhill, and I know the community and the families and the generations of families who were there. And I worked with a lot of them. And there are a lot of systemic issues that don't change because the place changes. But when the internal attitudes and when you are curious enough to want to know about neighbors, and people become more than just their income or their color or their car or how they dress or don't dress. It's the belonging and the desire to know that makes the difference. And the belonging story is a good story. It's a really good story.
Thank you, Miss Cynthia. So 2 cool things happened just now from my wifey. 1, she stood up for me, which is always lovely. 2, she called me Dr. Mark, which I kind of like that. Kind of like that. I really appreciate your question because it just helps me make sure I'm crystal clear. We are in this to work with people. We've been working with the people all along. I was talking about the partners to indicate, you asked what we were doing, and we were being driven by the partners with whom we could get these contracts to do the people work and the place work. And what we realized is there was only so far we could get. It allowed us to do people work. So we've been doing the people work all along, and you can talk to me, you can talk to others, you can talk to Debbie, you can talk to Earl. They can tell you stories about the resident stewards who are emerging, the leaders in these communities, the resident empowerment fund where residents are doing grant making to other residents. So we can tell you those stories. So absolutely, thank you for giving me the chance to say very clearly, that is the work. What we need to do is be able to just go straight to that.
Yes.
Because it takes the kind of intentionality that these stories tell, and we need to be able to be exactly explicit what we're doing and why we're doing it. So thank you for making sure we made that clear. Earl, you wanted to say something?
Dr. Mark, I just wanted to jump in too and to speak to your question. Just quickly, I apologize. To just piggyback off of what his lovely wife just said, the issue is the river. And to go back to my point, just hearing that breakdown, when he said there's no villain here, there's just another anti-hero. I think oftentimes what kind of gets lost in the shuffle is we're feeling like voices aren't being heard in the processes, but we're fighting against the river. The river symbolizes multiple things in that space. She said, from myself to Debbie and Miss Cynthia, who I've had the pleasure to work with, there's a river, and that is the battle. So we honor you, we honor the community, the voices. We are working hard, and I can say for myself, this is someone who works tirelessly at this craft of trying to make sure this works seamlessly. So as his wife said, he is picking up the phone. He is showing up to places. He's showing up to birthday parties, bar mitzvahs. He's showing up to small community events. And you don't see that type of engagement and intentionality from people